In today's video, we're going to be taking a huge tropical update. We're going to be taking a look at this ongoing Arctic blast, bringing tons of wind, tons of colder temperatures, and some storminess for some folks. And we'll be taking a look at the upcoming pattern as well to see what is upcoming. Let's just take a look here at this current radar imagery, and it's actually a lot quieter as of now. We do have kind of a secondary cold front that's going to be coming through in just a couple of days. We have some storminess here for New England and Canada. Nothing compared to what's going to be occurring when that major hurricane, yes, major hurricane barrels into Canada. We're going to have to take a look at those impacts as well. And then we're going to probably have a hurricane hitting likely Florida. I would say at this point is a pretty safe thing to say, is that likely we will have a hurricane hitting Florida. But it is possible that it does trend west and we see maybe Texas, Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama more in play. And also the Carolinas definitely in play at this point, and the rest of the East Coast for that matter, because there is a chance that this storm is going to cross over Florida, offshore of the southeast, and it could impact really anywhere. Anything is possible. So we consider every option here at Direct Weather. That's always been our motto, is every option is possible, so we consider everything. Now, we have this storminess up here in the north central United States, and there's a low somewhere up here in Canada, and this is creating a bit of a cold front underneath, so even colder temperatures are behind this. Let's just zoom in because this is really all that's going on around the nation. We can see some heavier precipitation along this. This is going to kind of bring even colder temperatures everywhere east of here as this swings through, so we need to watch this very, very closely. We have some lighter showers here the further west you go. Mostly greens. There is some pockets of yellow, so that's definitely worth noting, but mostly greens is what I would say. We see that up here for the rest of the upper Midwest. We see Minnesota, South Dakota, Nebraska, Iowa. We see plenty of moderate precipitation. I would say darker greens, yellows, and even oranges where it's probably a bit heavier. Flooding is a possibility, but this is pretty linear, so it probably won't be hours and hours and hours of rainfall. I would say the most rainfall we're seeing is in this pocket where we're seeing some training, where you're seeing shower after shower after shower. This is probably the areas that are getting the most precipitation from this storminess. It's a little bit heavier here on the southern end as well for Kansas and Missouri. Definitely worth noting. Now, what we're going to do, because again, that's pretty much all that's going on, is we're going to move on. And we're going to take a look at the upcoming pattern, and we'll also focus in on both tropical storms. We have Hurricane Fiona, obviously, and then we have tropical depression that is probably going to become a tropical storm and hurricane in the Gulf. We'll take a look at both of those systems. Now, here we are focusing in on the upcoming pattern. As we approach, we'll just take a look at tomorrow afternoon. It's going to get even quieter. We do have some storminess down here in Florida, and quite a bit here for our Great Lakes and for the Ohio Valley. Apparently, I called the Great Lakes the Gulf of Mexico in yesterday's video. A couple people were commenting about that. I don't remember saying that, but I sure enough did say it. Usually I catch myself when I slip up like that, but that time I definitely did not. We were talking a lot about the Gulf of Mexico, so it makes sense. Now, Sunday, which will be September 25th, we can see this cold front, the second one here, kind of developing along that line. We have a lot of precipitation behind it with a low around, which is causing quite a bit of precipitation for, again, the Great Lakes and the Ohio Valley for the most part. And this will bring even colder temperatures behind it, especially for early next week. We're going to warm up a little bit and then cool back down right away, basically. We can see the jet stream kind of like that, I would say. We have cold air pouring in with this front. We have a strongly positive PNA out here, which basically forces all the cold air to move around that big hump in the jet stream there, and it forces it to dive down eastward. We see this tropical storm, and I call it a tropical storm because that's probably the level that it's at this point, right around Cuba here on this model. Tuesday afternoon, we see it intensifying, likely to a hurricane, impacting the Florida Keys just by Tuesday, only a few days from now. This one is really one that I don't feel like a lot of people are hearing about yet. I'm thankful that we've been talking about it for multiple days. We've been considering it since it first popped up on models, and this is one of those examples of something really, really panning out. Unfortunately, we've been taking a look at this one for a very, very long time. I love when everybody has proper notice of a storm. It's really, really good. We have storminess still around where this cold front and low was impacting. Just overall, just nasty weather up here. Colder, stormy, definitely what's taking place at this point. Then by Wednesday, we see this system has completely crossed over Florida, and it's off of the East Coast now for the most part. Jet stream is pretty interesting at this point. It's doing something like this, which could lead me to believe that this storm is going to try to hop on that if it stays that way. So we'll see. It does curve into the kind of coastal North Carolina region. Um, Virginia as well, seeing some of this storminess, very intense low pressure system there. Kind of looks, again, it looks more like a bit of a less tropical system to me. I do see the features that lead me to believe this is sort of a nor'easter by this point, which could mean it's a mixed storm or superstorm is what we call them. And you can see this one, unfortunately, takes a track where it impacts most of the East Coast, which is about the most impactful track you can get. We'll see that on the total precipitation, but it looks really, really impactful. This is by Saturday afternoon, October 1st, and then it moves off finally by Sunday, October 2nd, and we're left with more quiet weather, as you can see. Really clear here in the eastern United States, and just a couple pockets of storminess out west. So there's a lot of calm after the storm, if you will. For sure popping up here. Now, the GFS model, we'll just take a look at this second opinion real quickly. We see it pop up. It hits more of western Cuba here, a little bit further west, but we'll see that this also takes it straight through the Tampa Bay area as a strong hurricane here, probably major hurricane. Unfortunately, that's Thursday the 29th, and look at it just fizzle out. It just hangs out over Florida, and it fizzles out, becomes a little bit of a nor'easter, but wants to just move away. What's interesting is we get obviously the back-to-back cooldowns here on this model, but we see another massive one here for the eastern United States around Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday time frame, which will be the 3rd, 4th, 5th time frame of October. And we get some snowfall here for New England. It looks like this is what we saw a couple of days ago on the same model as well. We see potential snowfall. I just want to see what this model eventually does with the pattern. Yeah, it gets a little mixed match there, but definitely interesting that this storm just fizzles out and goes away. I'm sure this would lead towards very major flooding over Florida because of the fact that it just sits there. That could be a pretty bad scenario. Yeah, geez. We see the pinks popping up here, which would be 15 to 20 inches of rainfall over central Florida. That would definitely not be good. Now let's take a look at the total precipitation here on the European model, the one that actually takes it up the coast. We can see anywhere in the whites we're expecting practically no precipitation. Your grays will be 1/10 of an inch or less of precipitation. Your greens will be 1/10 of an inch to 1/2 an inch. Your blues will be 1/2 an inch to an inch. Your yellows will be 1 inch to 2 inches. Your reds will be 2 to 5 inches. And then your browns will be 5 to 10 inches. We see plenty of that for Florida, North Carolina, Virginia, Delmarva, those areas. And then the blues, they're kind of hitting the Outer Banks from this system, and eastern Florida would be 10 to 15 inches of precipitation. So definitely a very, very intense rainfall storm. Now, as far as total snowfall through the entire model run, we do see that the Rockies receive quite a bit of this snowfall in here from time to time, and it adds up. We see a dusting, if anything, there in the grays. Your blues will be 2 to 6 inches of snowfall, and then your purples will be 6 to 10 inches of snowfall here. Definitely a sign that fall is here. If you're looking at your forecast on literally from any source and you're in the eastern half of the nation, you probably can see that we've gone from 80s and 90s persistently to now like 1 or 2 days that look a little bit warmer, but overall much, much cooler. It's like this cold front, this Arctic blast just permanently moved fall in. It's very interesting how sharply this fall has kind of just arrived, and it looks like it's kind of here to stay. Very interesting stuff. 70s and 60s for most folks. I'm sure it's well welcomed by most after the summer we've had. Here is the temperature pattern. We can see that this Arctic blast is literally right over us, and that's pretty much now. We can see later by this afternoon, we're going to get even further below normal temperatures. Friday evening here, we see just far, far, far below normal temperatures. By Saturday, high temperatures, we can see it's a little bit less cold. We see a couple exclusive regions seeing the cold here. Sunday afternoon, this is when that second cold front starts to come through. We definitely see more and more cold temperatures. And then again, Monday, Tuesday, we get this next Arctic blast looking just as potent, if not potentially more potent, in the greens and the blues there. That's going to be, again, Monday, Tuesday, 6th, 7th time frame, just a few days from now. We'll have more cold temperatures on the way. Wednesday, the 28th here. Thursday, the 29th, still cold temperatures in the east. Friday, the 30th here. So just cold, 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 cold overall. We have a couple of warmer days there. Maybe like Sunday and a little bit through Monday, but hardly We just stick around with these colder temperatures, and then here's that next one that this model shows. Really, really strong Arctic blast here around October 4th through 5th. Very warm temperatures in the central United States, and then cold as well for the southwest a little bit. So we get kind of an interesting pattern where we have a bit of a trough in the west, huge ridge in the central, and then a big old trough in the east again. So pretty interesting pattern. And then eventually we get into what I would consider a negative PNA, where a lot of the warmer temperatures are heading into the central and eastern United States. But by October 9th, which is when this frame is, your average temperature will probably be 10 degrees colder than it is now, or at least 5 to 10, I would say. So, being 2 or 3 or 4 degrees above average in mid-October is like being 5 degrees below average in this point in September. So it's an interesting time of year where this can be a little bit deceptive looking in the long range of the temperature anomalies, because your average temperature is going to change considerably in that time frame. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to move on, and we're going to focus in on the tropics. We're going to take a look at the 5-day graphical tropic weather outlook, and then we'll take a look at the cone forecast for both of these. Here's the 5-day graphical tropic weather outlook. We have a whole lot going on, my goodness. We have Hurricane Fiona, Tropical Storm Gaston, and then Tropical Depression 9, which is our biggest concern here for the southeastern United States. Fiona is obviously a massive concern for New England and eastern Canada as well. Just a massive storm, historic storm for them. We see this yellow area here has a 20% chance of development over the next 48 hours and a 30% chance of development over the next 5 days. Definitely something to watch. And then this one that looks to head directly northward has an 80% chance of development over the next 48 and the next 5 days. So we definitely have a high chance of development with that one, although it looks to head directly north. But it could get us further down the named storm list, which is pretty interesting to consider. Now, let's go ahead and take a look at the cone forecast for both of these. First off, starting off with Tropical Depression 9, we expect to be a tropical storm before tomorrow. As this one moves northward, we expect that curvature to happen pretty slightly, where it'll be heading northwesterly and then directly northward, eventually impacting eastern Cuba. It's important to note that the forecast, how it works, is that the actual center of the hurricane, the eye of the hurricane eventually, but the center of the low pressure system could track anywhere within the cone. So they are considering the possibility that this one could move east of even Florida, which is pretty interesting, and it can be pretty far west towards, potentially impacting the panhandle of Florida as well. There's a lot that can happen, but directly in the middle is the west coast of Florida, and potentially the Florida Keys getting those direct impacts as well. We need to watch this closely. I think this one could be a lot stronger, actually, just because of where it's tracking. It's going to be really crucial to watch this one, because this one could be a really big deal, to say the least. I said yesterday I have a terrible feeling about this one. I still have a really, really bad feeling about this storm for midweek next week. Now, Hurricane Fiona, I also have a pretty bad feeling about. We expect this one to continue being a major storm all the way until impact there, where there's hurricane warnings up for Nova Scotia and Newfoundland. Definitely Nova Scotia is going to get the direct impact there on the very, very northern end there of Nova Scotia. We expect direct impacts with a potential major hurricane. Crazy to think about that. Historic storm for them. Many different impacts, and you're going to want to just pay attention to I guess it's not the National Hurricane Center for them, but the Canadian weather source, whatever their national weather source is, you're going to want to pay very close attention, because this is a big deal here, to say the least. Now, be sure to subscribe and tune in daily, as we will be going over all of these things: the tropics, the pattern, that is the temperature pattern, the stormy pattern as well. All of these things daily. We do upload every single day. Be sure to like the video if you did enjoy it, and leave a comment down below with your thoughts. I'll see you guys in the next video.